Hello, my name is Daniel G. Wilson, and this is DGAW Interviews. Today on DGAW Interviews, I'll be interviewing Dance Electric.
What's up?
Hi. How are you doing?
So, how are you guys doing on this fine March 2nd day of spring?
Pretty swell.
Pretty virile, considering that there was a super moon yesterday. There was also a solar eclipse
in Europe, seen from northwest Europe.
Yeah, all of which coinciding in a very awkward time, and that that it rarely ever happens where you have an equinox, an eclipse, and a supermoon.
And also, to add to that, there was a huge aurora storm. There was the Northern Lights, like a huge, solar flare.
Aurora Borealis.
That's right. So that's, telling.
Oh dear.
How's Theo?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Yeah, good.
Stick to the point.
Yeah.
Alright, now, to start this interview, I would, I don't actually know where to start. History with you three gentlemen. That I honestly don't know where to start. But I'll try. First, how did you guys meet?
Well, I was a young, angry man in a new metal band, searching for something a little better than what I was doing. So I answered an ad on this music board called the Ontario Music Board, which was pretty infamous for being a place to shit talk. But I found this ad that said, "Screamo Madness!" It piqued my interest. So I contacted the fellows in the band, this guy named Chris Woodford. Chris Woodford, he went to my high school, and he was like a new metal god. He doesn't admit to this, he doesn't want to talk about this. Like,
wow.
Yeah, but he was the man. He looked like Cold Chamber, it was pretty sweet.
All of Cold Chamber.
All of them.
What a god to be.
So I was, this understanding of Chris's musical history gave me the leg up, and I got an audition, and this guy was there, NJ. So got into the band, it went really well, and NJ and I were the only non-vegetarians in that band.
Wow, that's ironic.
We hit it off over a family-sized pizza purchased from what was Dominion, is now Metro. And to everybody's chagrin in that band, we just monopolized that oven and cooked that meat, and we ate it
in front of them.
Yeah, that sounds glorious.
Yeah.
and such a friendship was then forged
out of meat.
Out of molten hot meat.
Which was ironic because at different times you guys were both vegetarian.
Yeah, soon after,
in fact,
actually.
I think when I met you, I don't know if you were both vegetarian, but you were vegetarian when I first met you, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's interesting.
But we digress. Go on with the chronology of our relationship.
I think that's the beginning. You just asked about the beginning. We don't have to go into the nitty-gritty right now.
And these guys were friends for a very long time, and when I met them, they were both already really tight.
Which probably made for a lot of awkward situations with you.
Yeah, and then I knew Theo. I'd seen them both. I'd seen them play in Strawman Fallacy, and I knew Theo's sister Nancy also, and then I used to go to their shows and dance like a lunatic. And I'm pretty sure that's actually why Theo even approached me in the first place. Not because he knew I played bass or anything, but because he'd seen me jump around like a maniac.
Yeah.
So then the rest was kind of history.
Yeah, Jamie, like, his audition process was me just observing him at shows, and I'm like, he gives it the most at shows. He dances around. It doesn't matter if he's off rhythm or looks crazy. That's the energy I need.
Yeah,
I need to utilize this kid, mold him to this god, which he has become, as you can see.
That looks like a fisherman.
The likes of Dionysus.
So yeah, man, like, I approached him, asked him pretty much straight up, "Do you play bass?" And he's like, "Yeah."
It's so weird the way it all worked out was kind of crazy.
Pretty organic and pretty.
If I wasn't a blaspheming person, I'd almost say it was something crazy, you know. But it was just a set of
things of heretic tales.
Yeah.
You know?
Just everything influenced itself. I just that kind of testament to how powerful that scene was back then.
It's like
that
you were like Martin Luther in the Reformation.
Nailing the theses to the
theses to that church door.
Yeah.
Let me be
Yeah.
bass player. Let me bass.
That's exactly, and that's how it all worked out.
That answer your question, man?
Yes. Now, for the fourth member of Dance Electric who's in here, how did you meet Tori?
Tori played in a band called Picnic, and we were playing the Veteran Hall in, it was like Kothra area. They used to put on a series of shows for breast cancer.
Breast cancer.
Not
awareness.
to support, right, to fight breast
Not,
That would
cancer.
be
yes,
unusual.
yeah.
Yeah, that would be really unusual.
Not to metastasize the
Yeah.
cancer per se.
Yeah, not to endorse its existence,
Yeah.
but to fight it.
So we were playing a show with her band Picnic. That series was called Rockers for Knockers, and there was this girl named Michelle Boobs who was really into us. We would play all her shows, so we kind of met through that sort of scene. She just had like a really cool energy to her. She rocked at drums, so I was like, hey, do you want to start another band, even though you have this band? And she just kind of migrated to our band, leaving Picnic behind. It was kind of unfortunate because they were a pretty good band, but I think
They lost our game.
Yeah,
I'm kidding, that's horrible and sad, but
I feel no remorse.
neither do I. Well, I don't really know about that band.
All right. Now, Buy Nothing Day,
Okay.
2007.
Okay.
Buy Nothing Day?
Yes.
2007.
Do you guys remember Buy Nothing Day?
I do. And I became aware of that via Adbusters. It's I guess it's a boycott act of purchasing anything as a response to commercialism and globalization.
Yeah, I think
and
I've
mass
heard of
commercialization.
this.
I think this guy has dug into our history, something that we don't remember.
Yeah, is there something that we did in relation
Yeah.
to Buy Nothing Day?
'Cause we did a lot of stupid shit.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Did we do the opposite? Did we buy something?
Well, I do not know. However, I do know that you were once previously interviewed by a site called BlogTO, and you were asked about Buy Nothing Day, and you had some interesting things to say about it.
Oh my god, you know so much about me, it's frightening.
Yeah.
I'm worried.
hack
I'm
our-
worried now.
Did you hack our minds?
Do you know my third nipple? This is getting really scary.
So in all truth,
Yeah.
without any more context, I can't remember.
Yeah,
I can't remember what happened yesterday. There's
Yeah. I don't remember what I ate for breakfast.
Do you remember who was interviewed? Was it NJ?
I believe it was NJ.
Okay, so this is
Okay.
more
This is
an
going to
NJ
be
question.
interesting.
okay, and the context of that, because like I said, I don't recall. It's been quite a while.
You were asked about the, if I'm remembering correctly, you were asked about the anti-commercialist stance of the day.
Okay, and
What did he say?
That escapes me.
Well, I think it escapes him too.
Yeah, sorry, man. It's kind of a dead end, but what I can say about that was me and NJ, like, we have a history of being like politically minded and involved in stuff like that, especially during our initial run at punk rock and hardcore. We're not as extreme about our perspective now, that's for sure. It's kind of, I have more of a middle of the road sort of take on things.
Yeah, unfortunately, I've been going the other direction. I'm becoming a radical leftist.
yeah, I don't know. I can't recall specifically. Like I'm totally aware of what.
And Jay says a
what
lot
the
of
day entails.
sensationalist things sometimes.
Yeah, we do.
You know, he likes to
The
say,
material tabloids
Yeah.
just eat up.
and Jay just, you know, he's like that.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
God bless him.
You stumped us. That's
Yeah.
insane.
I
man.
remember.
But,
I'm
you know,
sorry.
lots kind of happened since then. So.
All right.
Now he buys everything.
Yeah, buy
All the
everything
time.
day is every day.
He's actually, you know, it's gotten bad. You know, he's,
I bought a house.
yeah.
That's not nothing.
That's a big thing.
That's a
Yeah,
big
that's
something.
a lot of stuff to buy.
Something you buy and you
Yeah.
live in it.
You're buying the space inside the house as well, so
Yeah.
you're buying a lot, really, when you buy home.
A lot? Is that a play on words?
Yes, I
Because the
intended that
house is
completely.
on a lot,
Yes.
and you purchased a lot
What can I
when you
say?
purchased a house.
That was intentional, 100%.
Man.
Yes.
Speaking of politics and being politically minded, my next question is essentially three questions, directed toward Theo.
Oh, great.
Theo, I want to ask you later in the interview about politics. I also have to ask you about straight edge and sex.
Oh, okay.
You had some very interesting things to say about those topics.
Oh, yes, I recall.
Oh, yeah, so Theo's good at remembering stuff he said before.
Yeah, I guess so. Okay. So, do you want me to just go into my old perspective or my new perspective? Or address those things that change?
Yes, kind of a mix of all of everything you just said, because I found your stance is very interesting. What you had to say, very interesting.
Okay. What about it specifically?
Well, you were once interviewed by Allied Alien, if I'm remembering correctly, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
mentioned about how people are very puritanical in regards to sex and sexuality.
Oh, yeah.
You still say that. You
I still
say
kind
that.
of feel the same way. I think that society in general has pretty unhealthy perspective when it comes to sex, and continuing to make it taboo and this like really sinful sort of thing just creates problems, and that's something I haven't changed. Actually, like I'm not straight edge anymore, but my perspective still hasn't really changed on that. Like, I don't find my drug use or alcohol use particularly interesting or beneficial in any way, like beyond like recreation. So yeah, like I don't find making that the centerpiece of your life to be awesome or interesting. And I think that's probably what I expressed back then. Still feel the same way, even though I'm not straight edge anymore. Also don't like straight edge thugs either. So again, very middle of the road.
Would you say that retrospectively speaking, that our experiences since these times of the interview have maybe swayed our perspectives a little bit, but not to the polar opposite of where our stances were? Do you think that maybe with age,
age is the key word there.
We've gained some more insight and experience and stuff?
Yeah, also like, I guess coming from that era, like politics and all those things, like, defined our personality, especially me, but right now, like, I don't care, like, not about politics, but in expressing it in that way. I don't feel the need to be outspoken about my stances, and like I keep my political activity very small, just like helping people who are in our community and not talking about it with anyone. Like, I don't need to get into like, I wasted so much time arguing with people over issues that don't even matter, like, and like that energy is better served in a tangible way. So like I help out in my own way, privately, or publicly too. Like, I talk about it, but it's not something that defines me. It's just something I do because I feel it's just my responsibility as a human being.
My next question is about lyrics, imagery, and song titles. The most striking thing I found when looking at your catalog of music was particularly the song titles, and then just the landscapes the pictures you paint through the sounds and lyrics. It's very visceral. Tell me, for example, a song like Flag Burning Party or Wall Street Dracula, and then even California Song.
Yeah.
What inspired you particularly to come up with such, what's what I'm looking for, possibly even polarizing music in a way?
A lot of those song titles are kind of like inside jokes. Like,
Yeah, some of them start off as working titles. California Song, for instance, I guess we felt that initial riff had this like groovy California surfy feel. But I guess there's a general, I think there was a general theme that we had going with some of these albums that kind of captured or that we wanted to capture that theme via some of these song titles. Self-titled album, We Are Dance Electric, really revolves around this theme of friendship and unity. And you know, that's why there's songs like Going on a Date with Tori Electric, you know, or even Flag Burning Party. Flag Burning Party is it's a song about hanging out with pals, a pal.
Yeah, yeah, it's a song about me and Justine from Love and Terror Cult. We were just like, I had put on a show in my, what was it? With the XLR.
Yeah, it's a big one of the
Yeah,
shows
we
or-
put on a basement show in
basement show.
Streetsville with this punk band from the States that I really liked, and they gave us an American flag, and they told us to burn it. So me and Justine were hanging out one night, and we just burned it in a park. And it was just like, it's funny just reading those titles, just like encompasses that era of our life. And all the songs are very personal to people we know.
Yeah, it was very specific to
Yeah.
to the friendships and the experiences we had
And your
at
phone
that time.
Oh no, it was like a phone number, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it was a play on another experience with regards to a close friend of ours. So that first album, We Are Dance Electric, was really a narrative of who we all were as Dance Electric, and you know, like it was a day-to-day snapshot of what was going on in that era of our lives. A Penance for Your Thoughts was, I guess that one was.
It's more of a departure of that. It was-
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's because you know, like it. Even stylistically, we had departed a little bit at that time. We had
Yeah, that
taken
was
a heavier approach, which was kind of why the theme for that one seemed to be a little bit more darker, a little bit more aggressive, and a little and less personal. So I mean, it's still personal in the
Well,
sense
Wall
that-
Street Dracula is very specific. It's like a joke about Colin, right? Like,
Yeah. So there were still some elements of that I guess that tongue-in-cheek kind of playfulness, but the general theme of that album seemed to follow the course of the music, and that it was a bit more aggressive. It was a bit more in your face.
Mhm.
Hence the lyrics were a bit more in that sense.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Not sure if that answers everything, or dive into something else.
Well, in a moment, I just to finish the question about lyrics and image, because this one song title really stuck out for me. Stigmata Baby. By any chance, have you read the works of Philip K. Dick?
Oh, I have, yeah. That's so funny. Well, Blade Runner is like my favorite movie. I think I've only read that book though. Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? But I do know a lot about Philip K. Dick. But that wasn't really a reference to Philip K. Dick, unfortunately. So I'm really sorry to bum you out. But I can tell you about that song specifically. It was, I think I lifted some of that from a quote I heard in a movie about the germs. What was it called? What We Do Is Secret. And there was like a little quote there that talked about the great despiser. I really thought that was righteous. So yeah, it was just like that album was very critical of religion and like religious upbringing, you know, like me and NJ both came from like this intense.
I think all
All of
Oh,
us.
no, actually, yeah,
we all
they were-
came from really ridiculously religious families.
So it was just like kind of like putting our perspective on that and just like kind of making a joke. And so Stigmata Baby is like, ooh, sexy Jesus or whatever, you know. It's kind of
It's nice that we're able to do those kind of things these days.
Yeah,
And
well-
everyone's kind of okay with it too.
penance for your thoughts. Like it was like there are little punchlines in everything, you know, like that we do, and I think it's just our personalities. Like even in the most dire times, we make fun of each other.
Yeah, it's, you gotta laugh, right? If you can't
Yeah.
laugh, then what are you gonna do?
Okay. Now, my next question is for Jamie.
Okay.
Jamie, Donkey Song.
Donkey song. Oh my god, what are you talking about?
Are
oh
you-
no, are you serious?
Yep.
You're like,
digging
dude,
out all
what
the
the hell?
skeletons.
How do you even know about this?
Tell me about the Donkey Song.
Is it that YouTube thing where
Yep.
I'm like, oh my god, how do you even know about that? That's really embarrassing.
Why?
Yeah, that was weird. I don't even, this is really bizarre. This just got really weird. My sister basically came down. I'm a strange guy, first of all. Let me just preface this whole thing by just saying I'm a strange kind of guy.
I can confirm that.
Yeah. So my sister came downstairs, and we used to have a computer downstairs. And I say bizarre things. You can ask my girlfriend too. Like I'll just follow around the house saying just like non sequiturs and saying strange sounds at her, and she'd be like, "You're ridiculous." But then she'd start laughing, and then I'll have her. But anyways, my sister came down. I was on the computer, and I guess she was like, I can't believe I'm talking about this. She like had her camera on, and I didn't realize she had her camera on. I guess she had her cell phone. She's like, I thought she was taking a picture. Like, when I turned around, looked at him, and I was like, "Donkey, and I said it in a really weird voice and stuff, and I was like, "Donkey, donkey," and like, I know what she was filming. I'm like, "Are you filming right now?" It was really embarrassing. And you successfully dug that out. Wow, that's impressive. Yeah. Good job, sir. I did not think anyone would ever dig that out. Yeah, that was a weird moment.
Yeah, you're like the forensic scientist of
Yeah,
like
that's
obscure
really
facts
crazy.
for,
Like,
for
now I'm worried.
for local bands.
You're gonna like, yeah, that's crazy. I didn't even think that was still out there.
Oh, it's still out there.
Yeah, I
You're
should
like
probably take care
you're
of
like
that.
the forensic anthropologist of mediocrity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's just something that should really best be forgotten about.
There are these guys who live in the suburb outside of Toronto.
Yeah.
And they played this band, and
One of them made a
one
video.
of them made this video.
Where he says donkey 8 times in a row before he realizes his sister's filming him. Yeah.
My next question is for Jamie again.
Oh, lovely.
Jamie, you're familiar with one particular poet, Samuel Beckett, and you also have a particular history apparently with the poet W.B. Yeats, if I'm not Yeats. Explain what does Samuel Beckett mean to you?
Now, hang on.
Oh my god.
Make sure that you decompress at 2,000 meters in your bathysphere, because that was deep.
Yeah, that was... Whoa, Samuel Beckett, I don't really
We
know.
might get bends.
Yeah.
Nitrogen in the blood.
Samuel Beckett is just a poet I enjoy, but I'm not going to talk at length of him because honestly I'm not really legitimately that much aware of all of his poetry. I probably said somewhere sometime that I guess I appreciate Samuel Beckett. He's a really good poet, he's really interesting, and he's really postmodern and just kind of critical of everything that was related to my upbringing, specifically I guess Catholicism and just conservatism in general. So that was really interesting. So he influenced me in that way, and he said it all really poetically and beautifully, and in a way that wasn't conventional. W.B. Yeats is also a poet, and I guess he's relative to me. He's relevant to me because he's from the town I was born in Ireland called Sligo, and that's kind of our claim to fame. That town is this guy W.B. Yeats, who's a very influential poet. He influenced my favorite author, Cormac McCarthy. If you look him up, you can tell. You basically get the gist of this guy. Oh wow, he's the greatest English language poet.
Now, as a poet,
Yeah. Oh boy, here we go.
did he know it?
I think he knew it late in life. Yeah.
Okay.
But he never took himself too seriously. So yeah, that's the Yeats connection. He's a poet from the town I was born in, very gifted poet, and yes, that's how that's where he came from.
He knew it.
He knew it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's scary. You know a lot about me.
Well, my next question is for you again, actually.
Oh, wow. Triple.
Jamie, ducks.
Oh.
Oh my god. Ducks?
Yep. You saved some ducks once. You got in the
okay.
news.
Are they
my
not
goodness.
swans?
It was a goose. It was a
Oh.
baby goose.
A gosling.
A gosling, as it were. Oh my goodness. So I didn't, it wasn't a big deal. Like, really what happened was I fell into a little kind of rivery thing. It wasn't even a river. It was like this area that drains all the water. What would that be called? An aqueduct? It's like a little, it was like a little...
An islet of sorts?
Sure. It was like a little concrete thing that was about yay big, yay wide, this tall. The water was only like that deep. But anyways, I'm with my girlfriend, long story short, we're at the park, and we see a bunch of geese, and one of the baby geese goes away from its mother, and my girlfriend starts freaking out. I'm like, it'll be fine. And she's like, no, it won't be fine. And the mother goose starts freaking out, it's okay, it's not going to be fine. It goes down this long maze, right? I'm following this little baby goose. I'm like, it'll be fine. But meanwhile, I look over and I see that it's going to clearly go down this drain of death. It's gonna die. It's gonna perish. Its mom doesn't know what the hell's going on. It's gonna perish. So, like an idiot, I guess, I go over and I'm like, I'm gonna save it, and I kind of pressed my body up against the end of the wall of the ravine, and I went in to grab it, and like an idiot, I fell in. So I didn't jump in. I fell in like a jackass, and I thought the baby goose was gone. But then I get up, and it's like in my hand. So I'm running across this park, and like this kid's. I'm not kidding. There's this kickboxing class of women nearby, and they're like they hear me splash. Everyone's like, and looking, and like I get up, it's like all really quick, and I've got this thing in my hand. It's in my hand. I look, oh my god, and I jump out, and I run over to where the mother goose is. These kickboxing ladies are watching, and I kid you not, this little Spanish kid's behind me, like, let me touch it. It's like running behind me, like, no kid, get away! And like I actually like chastised the child. Like I've got an important job to do. And anyways, I brought the thing back to this mother, and everything was happy, and I guess it made the news for some reason.
He was the most unlikely of municipal champions.
Yeah. I've got a soft spot for animals, so.
Yeah, and you're apparently really mean towards kids. You yelled at that.
Yeah, that kid just like, really? I'm reuniting this duck. See what you've done to me? This goose with its mother, and you're like, let me touch it! Like, I'm just like, I should have just like faced, like, you know, like when they do in football?
Yeah.
Imagine if I just turned around and was like, boom! Like the kids. Damn, I didn't do that, of course.
Yeah,
But
Jamie Bakes
it
kills
wasn't-
kid.
Yeah,
This
saves
is
goose,
nuts.
kills child. You gotta ask. He lived in Saudi Arabia, which I'm sure you know. You literally know his blood type, I'm sure.
I did not know that, actually.
Yeah,
Well.
no, I wouldn't be surprised.
You didn't dig deep enough.
Yeah.
Forensic anthropologist.
Well,
Oh, here we go. I'd be afraid if I were you.
now, MJ,
Yes.
you have a very interesting technical wizardry when it comes to cables.
Okay.
You guys had a chord mishap while you played, was it a third or fourth basement show in Orangeville? And while you were playing, you had to fix one of them.
Well, okay. If I had to be pragmatic about it, I identified an error in this signal chain of mine to operate my guitar playing apparatus. Thereby noting this error, I identified that I needed to fix said error. So I, without much hesitation, because I had identified what I needed to do, I plugged it back in and continued on with my set task, which was to play and perform this song.
NJ, NJ's done that many a time.
But I mean, dare I ask, what should I do? What should I have done something else?
Yeah, it would have been unfortunate had he not taken the course that he did.
It's,
I shudder at the thought.
it's darkness.
I probably would have wept.
I would have had to console you.
You
We
would
would
have.
not have
That's
been
happened
able.
before,
We would not
of
have been
course.
able to complete the song.
No.
Nor the
I would wet myself.
Nor the set. But you know. Yeah,
Thank God, basically, that he did do that, because I would have wet myself, and it would have been unfortunate. He'd have to console me. Theo would be hanging from the rafters, not noticing what would happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thinking about myself, like,
But-
like usual.
Totally egomaniac, egomaniac, you know.
I mean, but all joking aside, like, you get to a point where you've played your instrument long enough to know how to troubleshoot certain incidences like that, and still recognize that the show has to go on. So despite any of these types of mishaps, you just have to be able to roll with the punches, and keep on playing.
This is true. You have to do that. If you panic, it's ugly. It gets ugly.
Yeah, like, think about the captain from the Titanic.
I know, he could have just probably... How did no one see that?
It's an iceberg is a big thing.
It's not a small thing. And like, you know you're going to places that has those things.
Like, why would you pilot a vessel into certain doom, into something so obvious?
Maybe he knew. Oh wow, and he's like, you know what, screw it. I'm sorry to all the survivors who are probably dead. So
There are no survivors.
Or the
anymore.
relatives to those that perished in the Titanic. I'm sorry
Yeah,
for my
it's
insensitivity.
way too soon, dude.
Yeah.
Too soon.
It's been like 100 something.
He
years.
said
It's not
it was too
soon.
soon.
Yeah, come on, man. I just apologize. You just ruined it further. I'm sorry, everybody.
Next, please.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys were spoken of by Phaser Magazine. I believe it was you were on the best of X year list.
Okay.
Are you aware that Phaser Magazine, now the website, links directly to a Japanese website with pictures of cats?
That's
Oh,
amazing.
That's
That's
way
essentially
better.
what-
Yeah.
I prayed to the dead god that that would happen, so now
dead god.
I've kind of changed my mind about my whole blaspheming. Now I believe. I'm a believer now. That's actually was my goal. So the fact that that's come through is really...
I think anything we should do henceforth with regards to technology should reroute to some server that leads to Japan and will show cats.
I agree.
Will show the user cats.
In fact, I want to like announce our reunion and sell a lot of tickets, and then when everyone shows up, just like kind of like a screen comes down out of the roof and just shows cats frolicking with each other.
Yeah, and that they can only purchase tickets
And-
through some obscure
Yeah, obscure place where they have to go and meet.
and
like
pay in yen.
Yes. Or trade some kind of bovine meat. It doesn't even have to be cow, it could be buffalo. But
You're right. It's commonly misconceived that bovine is limited to just cow.
Yeah, but
no, there
but
are
buffalo closely
other
related.
other
And I'm
types.
pretty sure oxen are not in fact even like an actual animal, it's just like another word for like
Do you
a
think
big cow.
like it's a derivative of sorts? Yeah.
Could be.
You know, it's
strange.
the bovine is they're complicated.
They're strange creatures.
There's so much to learn.
Next question.
You guys were nominated for a MARTY Award in 2010. Did you win?
Nope.
No.
We lost to a classical orchestra, right?
But could you blame them?
No, they put on a really good performance. Didn't they play?
No, they
Oh,
did
no.
not.
No.
I was the only guy who was pissed, which made me question your dedication to
No, I don't care, but like we lost. Come on, man, we lost they have a lot of people in their group. You know.
So,
don't
it
know.
wasn't based on the popularity of like relatives.
How did we lost to like another group, like another band of like rock guys?
I'd still be mad.
I'd be mad, but yeah.
But
I
yeah,
was just happy to get the nomination.
it was
to be
really
honest.
cool to get the nomination,
Yeah.
and the fact that Mississauga has enough of an artist community that it warrants
Yeah.
like a proper award ceremony.
I was
So it's
surprised-
really it's
If I'm being really honest, I was surprised we got the nomination. Like, think about that for a second. Dance Electric, a band with songs like Flag Burning Party, was nominated in the same category as a classical orchestra. That's... I kind of was like, you know what, Messiah, alright. You're not as... You know, you're kind of forward-thinking.
except Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart is like flipping over in his grave.
Yeah, he's like, damn you! Like, we're playing, like, every song we have has, like, a minor fifth, flattened fifth,
Yeah,
you know. And he has, like... He only uses that, like, 20% of the time.
it's so against him. It's-
I know,
wouldn't
he
agree.
wouldn't have been happy. But yeah, we were really
But
happy
well,
to
actually,
get that.
he probably was happy that the classical guys won.
Yeah, then he was
It's
like,
like
see?
yet another victory.
Suck it!
Suck
Fuck
it,
it.
rock and roll.
But you know what? Maybe if
That
Mozart
was him
around-
knocking on his coffin.
His eyes
Take
like
that,
come open.
Dance Electric!
Imagine-
You musicians!
Yeah. So yeah, but I was happy to get the nomination. Evidently, I didn't even know you were mad about that.
I was pretty quiet that night because I was stewing with jealousy.
Of those classical guys?
Yeah,
Mention it. You know who was there?
It's
Hazel
okay.
McCallion. She's no longer the mayor, but...
she left during the ceremony.
Did she?
She was so upset.
Yeah!
She's one of our biggest
She was
supporters.
outraged, yeah.
Yeah.
She threw her... she threw her booze at the wall and just drove home really angry.
I think I heard her say, "I've dealt with great calamities, such as dealing with the great train Mississauga train
Yeah.
derailment,
The tornado of 78.
but never have I been vexed by something like so."
Yeah, and then she drank a full
End quote.
bottle of vodka and drove home. And governed her city very well thereafter.
That-
Debt-free. Only city in Canada, or some people say.
You guys once played King Kaboom.
Oh yes, we did.
That's right, we did do that.
Yes.
Do you want
So many memories.
What was that like for you guys?
Like many of the things that we had an opportunity to do, it was surreal because I think we feel like undeserving of everything we got.
Again, we were raised Catholic, so.
So a lot of self-doubt, a lot of guilt, and we were a problem from right the get-go because we get there on time, we get to the studio on time, and we have locked our van with all our equipment in it.
Yep, the keys
And
were locked in the van.
keys, so we had to. Took us about an hour to jimmy that open.
Jeez, I forgot about that.
Yeah, we did it, and yeah, it was a good experience. Like
It was
It was
good
good.
experience.
it taught us about SOCAN because you have to sign up for SOCAN if you're like on TV, and also the makeup girl.
Oh God, yeah. That's
Beautiful.
what I remember.
Yeah, that's all you remember.
Because she was like.
She complimented me on my skin.
Yeah, I
It
mean,
was-
she would.
it felt
I was
real
like a
good.
guinea pig. Like she wouldn't leave me alone. She was like putting stuff in my face and my eyeballs.
I
like-
couldn't stop looking at her eyes.
I don't remember what she looks like right now, but I remember that she was like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna do some stuff to your eyelid.
Do whatever you want, girl.
And I was not.
Mm.
I hate that. I already knew that from my childhood, but I learned that day that I hate makeup and I hate it being applied. How do girls do that? That stuff with the eye, with the
The eye thing?
no, the eyelash.
Marley, how do you do your makeup?
The eye
No,
thing.
the eyelashes.
The eye thing with
Jesus
the eye.
Christ, that's torture. That's like Chinese water. Is that? It's 2015. Is that racist?
It's called an eye curler. Get with
Oh
it.
my God, that stuff is horrible. So that's what I learned from that day. But it was a good experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's weird to see people make a fuss over you.
Yeah, it is weird to.
And then it's even weirder to tell your parents to watch you on TV
Yeah,
at
it
1 in
is.
the morning because that's when the show's airing.
That's when Tom Green started though too. He got really big.
Yeah, and look at us now.
I know, bro.
Tom
Almost as
Green.
big as Tom Green.
Almost.
I met Tom. Well, you know, I didn't meet Tom Green. I was calling sick that day. Tom Green came in at the place I worked at.
So you.
I didn't meet him. The guy that taught me about wrestling.
That's a pretty cool non-story there.
Yeah, sorry about that. You can edit out everything I say.
No.
Nope.
Okay, now, this is... I found this to be a very interesting achievement. You guys, in 3 years, played over, 150 plus gigs. Some of them include the Beating Hearts Festival, Soy Bomb, Ramen, and a wrestling match, apparently.
Yes.
Explain the wrestling match.
That was a good time.
That was my birthday.
It was, yeah.
We played 2 shows that day. The first one being the wrestling match.
Yeah, we
Yep,
did
and that was
Didn't
in Vaughan or.
Yeah, it was in a community center in Vaughan. And yeah, it was just like an amateur wrestling match, and
was amazing, though.
the promoter contacted us, and yeah, we went and played, and it was a really weird experience.
It was weird. Yeah. So we were playing in between the wrestling acts.
Yeah.
And actually, in the middle of our set, it was interrupted by one of the wrestlers charging
right.
in. Yeah. And
We had to stop playing at one point.
We,
Like they were like,
we didn't. Yeah, because it was
because
surprising.
like
because
stuff. Yeah, wrestling started happening.
yeah. Because
So like we were playing
things
in
went
between these
down.
guys like doing body slams and jumping off top rope, and then like we're playing. It was so surreal. Like there's stuff happening in the ring, then we're playing, and then this guy runs in and we had to like stop, and I'm like okay, and we kind of like went away. Right? I remember it being like that. Like it was just like oh all right.
Yeah.
This guy's power bombing this person now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And there were like women wrestling each other and stuff. It was crazy.
It's a,
There's people jumping off the top ropes. It was really nutty.
it's a crazy time.
It was a crazy time.
Women doing things.
Yeah, that sounded horrible. But no, like, but thank God we live in an age where like there's a lot more women wrestling. I guess that's my trying to recover.
Thank God.
Yeah, thank God for that. Back in the day, they only had like brought Macho Man Randy Savage to the.
But in regards to like that number in 3 years, if you kind of like
Divided up, it's not even that impressive, right?
no, well it's like think about what we're doing. NJ and I in those 3 years were also playing in
That's
another
true, yeah,
band.
that's
Yeah,
true.
there was an overlap with another
Yeah,
band.
yeah,
And so were you.
yeah, so
you
yeah.
had an overlap with another
So
band. So
that-
did Tori.
Yeah. So we
We-
were all in 2 bands.
Yeah, so we
Busy
were.
bands.
So if you break it down, we were at least playing a show a weekend,
It's true.
Yeah.
often
Or more.
too, and we stopped practicing because we didn't need to because we were playing.
We were playing
So
so
many
often
shows, yeah.
That it was just redundant, right? So yeah, it was just like the attitude of me and NJ, quite like, all I wanted to do was fucking play shows. And that's why I booked 2 on my birthday, you know, like, it's just what I wanted to do.
Playing shows is pretty awesome.
And there was nothing else was important. Sorry to like ex-girlfriends and family members, like I sketched out on so many weddings because I'm like, playing a show, sorry.
You know what though, like when you're in a band, it's important. It's one of those things you have to prioritize, even if you're like, you know, in a significant relationship, if you've got other jobs. It causes angst and problems sometimes in bands when someone says, "Oh, I'm really busy." It's like, well, you know, we're in a band. This is a thing that's important, and we have to put the time in.
Yeah.
It's funny, like, you know, my first experience in a band was with these guys, and that's how I learned how to do it. But now that I'm like, you know, with this new band, it's like I find myself being very bothered by members that aren't pulling their weight, or like they're not clear, or they don't do things on time, and it's like, you know, we've got a job to do. It's a job, and it's serious, and it's on the same level as all those other big things in life. And when people don't kind of give the band that credit, oh, you're a band, yeah, but you know, we've got this to do. We've got to go, you know, no, you give it the respect it deserves.
Yeah. Like you get to a point where it's not just your after school activity. It's like you said, it's a priority because it is part of ingrained in your lifestyle. So just like with everything important, you make time for it.
That's right. And if you're not making time for it and you're doing other things, you know, that are not really as important even, it can cause problems.
But we also would prioritize over things that are really important.
It's true.
You know, like I think of like events that affected the band, and like, for example, like we had a television interview on the same day that Erin was coming back, Jamie's girlfriend. She left for like an extended period of time.
Yeah.
Like a whole
6 months, I think.
6 months. He hadn't seen his girlfriend. The day she came back was the day we had booked an interview, and like Jamie had like this crisis, right? Like, I haven't seen my girlfriend in 6 months.
Yeah.
I have an obligation to the band, and back dealing with me specifically back then, like he would get no fucking understanding from me. But you know, like things are different now. Like I understand that conundrum, but yeah, like you got to kind of like bite the bullet. Like
You do, yeah.
I remember like my ex-girlfriend being in the hospital, and then being like, "Oh, this is gonna make me look real bad."
Yeah, it is.
Like, I got a show. See you later.
Yeah.
Like real like.
Yeah. I think the point is that when it gets prioritized, it's
right up there
it's
with
up
anything.
there with everything else,
Yeah.
because it is your life. It is something that you care about and you are impassioned about it. You love doing it, so you are invested in it. And in anything that you're invested in, it's gonna pull and tug at you against other things that you're
That's
invested
right.
in.
Sorry, that was a tangent, but
Well said. Well said. I agree with you. I agree with you. All right, now, my next question is about a particular show that you guys played. This was in, if I'm remembering correctly, 2012. It was a 420 show at the Lodge, hosted by Culture Rising.
Oh, that was a reunion show.
Now, if I'm remembering correctly, that was a reunion show, if I'm remembering correctly, right?
yeah, I mean, in the sense that we got together for that one show. We never reunited, though.
And also, during your set, I remember which song was it? It's California song. Another member of the Mississauga music scene and the Mississauga poetry scene, Matt Miller, he did some interesting theatrics toward near the end of the set of that song. I mean.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I thought
Probably the zombie mosh.
you're bringing up the zombie mosh, eh?
I guess like one gimmick that kind of circulated amongst our friends and us has been kind of the antithesis to moshing, which was to kind of incorporate hilarity and not to take yourself seriously in moshing, which
is refreshing, and it was nice.
yeah. So
Enjoyed it.
Matt's a good friend of ours, and he's
Creative
quite
individual.
creative in expressing himself. So
Yes.
yeah, I couldn't really see what was happening with what was going on, but it wasn't until after I saw the video. It's pretty hilarious.
It was, and he did like the Legolas. Like, he was like shooting. He was like fighting off zombies,
was-
basically, essentially, that were attacking the stage.
He was
I
the
think.
last man standing
Yeah.
in an army, or against a zombie crowd.
Which I just love. That was one of my favorite parts about playing. Just like when everyone was really involved. And that was awesome. That was a really cool time.
Zombie mosh.
Zombie mosh.
Yeah, there was so many different types of
Calculator,
mosh.
calculator
Calculator mosh. Leapfrog mosh.
Yeah, there was a lot.
Archery mosh.
Yeah, the archery mosh was.
Yeah, it's just like our response. Like, yeah, that shit started way before.
Oh, yeah,
us.
that's true.
Yeah, it was like me and Chris and you.
It's a Petro.
Yeah, we just hated like tough guy assholes, and
Yeah,
we were
it's-
just like, oh, let's just be assholes ourselves, but in like a funny way. So we would just be like dorks and
Which is
dance.
nice, because if you're showing to be an asshole at a set, then just go home.
Because like typically with that, with I guess with like hardcore moshing, it takes itself way too seriously.
It's ridiculous.
So it was just refreshing to have like a tongue-in-cheek take on it.
Yeah, just an accepting of each other around you and not trying to do anything. Just very positive.
Positive and funny. You
Yeah.
know, like you're not out to
Positive.
just swing arms and knock somebody's face or
Yeah.
do a roundhouse into
Yeah,
someone.
just very positive and inclusive too, for everyone involved, which is the ideal.
All right. My next question is kind of a question about the past, present, and possible future. Now, this is about your bands. Now, you all, outside Dance Lecture, you all have been in various bands and are currently in various bands. Some of these include Theo, Horse Lover, NJ Theo, Strawman Fallacy, and Jamie, Vulcan Dub Squad.
Yeah.
Now, please explain these different projects. And NJ, if I'm remembering correctly, you're also in Hammer Hands and you're in Villains.
Correct.
Please explain these different projects.
Oh, it's a lot of time.
Do you wanna
There's
start?
a lot of bands there.
Yeah, well, like it's hard to like encompass all our motivations for each and every band. I think it's just a product of the music culture we grew up in, where bands just break up and you start a new one. Not to get discouraged, always push forward. And I'm also personally influenced by artists who are in a lot of bands. For instance, Justin Pearson, he's in a million bands. And I always like the idea of being prolific and just doing a lot of stuff. So a bunch of those bands happened when we're in Dance Electric. And it's also an extension of that work ethic we had, where this is not funny, it's just like that's all we really wanted to do. So our lives outside of that supported the music we were doing. So what else are we gonna do? Just start a bunch of bands and play as much as possible.
Yeah. And I don't know, I guess if from a pedigree standpoint, like our early days had a lot of crossovers, and even when we weren't in a band together, those bands that we were in would play shows often. It would also result in us doing guest vocals or guest appearances in each other's albums or live performances. And even now, even though we're not in the same bands, there's still that cross involvement in one way or another. Yeah, like right now, Jamie and I share jam space, and Theo has come up on stage and performed with us in Hammer Hands, and he also laid down vocal tracks as well in our self-titled album with Hammer Hands. So yeah, it's like there's always, at least amongst us, there's always this kind of like intertwined connection, whether it was in the past, at the relative present, and
Right.
and in the future. I think it just has to do a lot with being friends with other artists who have common interests, and
The
we've
fact
lucked
that
out
we
that
were all
way.
part of a scene, you know, there was like this scene that had a lot of people that became friends and had similar interests in terms of creative endeavors and stuff, and so people had a lot of respect for each other, and that kind of has endured
Yeah.
in some shape.
And the fact that it was cozy enough that it was you got to know everybody and like personally, and you know, so it was always an inevitable bumping into somebody and inevitable involvement in one way or another.
Mm-hmm.
Now, are there any new projects you guys have currently? You guys are working on individually or together?
Yeah, we all have something.
Well, why don't we start with you?
All right.
Because you're new, but you're almost ready.
Right, yeah. Okay, so I've been playing with the guys that I've kind of started playing music with in the first place. And recently, I don't know what's happened, but we've hit a really nice vein of creativity. So we've got a band now called Bards, which will be coming out with an album hopefully in the next 6 months. And we'll be playing our first show on May 2/4 at like a private party, but thereafter we will be playing as many shows as possible. It's kind of like stoner rocky, you know, I guess alt rock would be the most apt description. It's heavy.
Some post elements.
Yeah, we've got post elements, post rock elements, heaviness, some blues influence. Yeah, so that'll be really exciting. We're playing right now. We're working on an album. We've got a set list ready to go. We're finally good with it. I've been practicing singing and playing bass, which is difficult. And that's my phone ring. It's really embarrassing.
I guess almost immediately after Dance Electric broke up, I ended up starting a band with. Well, actually, I joined the Love and Terror Cult, another band out of Mississauga, as their replacement guitarist. That didn't last too long because that band broke up after a handful of shows since I joined. But what came from that was what the band I'm in now, which is Hammerhands, and the whole MO behind it was to start a band that was doomy and sludgy, and had elements of I guess really slow, heavy metal, which is a bit of a darker turn in terms of the music that I'd been playing, and I hadn't really played anything as aggressive or as dark since maybe Strawman Fallacy, but you know, in contrast to Dance Electric, which was a lot more upbeat. Yeah, since then, we've put out our self-titled album, which also features Theo, some backup vocal tracks, and we've put out a cover EP as well, called 1995, where we cover 2 songs from 1995. We're a bunch of like alt rock kind of kids who grew up on that like MTV generation thing, so we decided to cover two of our favorite songs from that were released from that period, which was PJ Harvey's "To Bring You My Love" and Smashing Pumpkins' "XYU." And currently we're writing our follow-up to our self-titled album, and hopefully we'll have that out sometime in the fall. That's what we've been working on, what I've been working on.
Took a little break from music for a little while there, and I got back into it by helping other families out for a little while there. So I'm sure you're familiar with other families.
Oh, yes.
So yeah, like I just joined the band and started doing vocals, and we did a few shows in like Montreal, Ottawa, and then around the area, and just didn't feel like being involved in that sort of music. Not that it's bad, I adore it, but there's something about like punk rock that resonates with me, and I really need to do it. I really need to be in a hardcore band, so started in a band with Nicole and Bense from Pretty Odd, and yeah, we just started writing recently, and it's going to be like fast, snotty, extreme hardcore. We're called Drunk Chicks, and yeah, man, it's just going to be straightforward, fun, lots of rippers, dark, gruesome, poisonous, other words.
Cool.
Adjectives.
Adjectives.
Cool. Cool. Can't wait to hear it. I can't wait to hear your stuff.
I can't wait to hear it too. We got 2 songs. We're looking for 6 songs. And yeah, we're. What are you saying? No, we're whispering. All right.
Continue.
Yeah. We're just aiming for like once we have like 10 minutes of material, we'll play shows. Like I don't want to do any long sets, just short 10, 15-minute sets, and that's it. That's all she wrote.
Well, you guys have been busy.
Life.
Yeah, life does that too. This guy has procreated, so he's got progeny.
Oh, congratulations.
It's not new.
Yeah, but
He's 16 years old.
It's,
Wait.
this happened 11 years ago. I know it's 11 years ago, 16. It's really bad. Really, really bad. Yes, he has a young boy.
Yes, yeah. I lead a pretty grown-up life, which is very uneventful in contrast to my musical endeavors. But yes, I have a wife, son, and a mortgage. So, yeah.
Little Ethan. He's the man.
If you know this reference, I'm thinking about the ending of Train Spotting, actually. When what you just said.
You
Oh, right, yeah.
when he's listing the things about adulthood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Except you're not.
It's
addicted
less
to opiates.
depressing now.
Well, it's late, but yeah, congrats. Okay, now, you guys were, if I dare say, a pivotal band in the Mississauga scene during the mid-late 2000s scene in Mississauga. How would you describe the scene circa 2005?
It was actually surprisingly not very eventful. It was after the Masonic Lodge broke down. Yeah, broke down.
No, dude, that was before, because 2004 was when we put out the Strawman self-titled, and 2005 and 2006 was actually a pretty roaring golden age for the Masonic Lodge and local area shows here.
Well, I think like we were a part of an explosion of creativity, and we kind of came out during the tail end of that. Because like think of all the bands when we started playing in A Place in the Seasons that came out of that era. You got Boys Night Out, you got Alexis on Fire, Cancer Bats. They evolved from what's that band called?
At the Mercy of Inspiration.
Yeah, there you go. So and the scene was pretty vibrant then, you know, like there was always a show going on in the Masonic Lodge, and then across the street you always had a show going on at the Kinsman Hall. The surrounding areas, there was the Pine Room, community centers, kids were just
churches everywhere in Brampton.
Yeah,
Caledon, I remember opening up for Silverstein in Caledon before they got signed to Epitaph or whatever label that shot them to stardom, whatever. So yeah, like there was just a lot of music happening, and then we caught the tail end of it in our bands before that. We were in I Spoke, and Manassi's Diary, and then when Dance Electric happened, that's when things became a lot more underground, because the Masonic Lodge wasn't a viable option anymore. Venues were closing down, kids were just losing interest, and I feel like when Dance Electric came along, like all those bands that came out of that time got huge, and then there was this kind of lull in the scene, but we operated within that lull. So we made do. Like there was a lot of like Matt Miller was doing a lot of basement shows. He had Laugh Stock going on, which was a comedy/music series. Later on, he got rid of the comedy, but it was still Laugh Stock.
Yeah, it ended up, requiring more resourcefulness from people to put on these shows because of the lack of availability of some of these venues, such as the Masonic Lodge. I guess people just kind of took it to themselves to provide the means for the bands to keep playing. So yeah, it was a good resurgence period that we happened to coast along to at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in terms of like, think of like all the local bands of that time. Like, you can't really think. I just remember bands that happened before Dance Electric, like Wheels on the Bus and stuff like that. There weren't that camaraderie. Was just basically like exclusive to us and the Love and Terror cult and like all those Laugh Stock people, which was a really small
And then there was
community.
that other kind of realm of like Scotty and their bands, like Authors and stuff.
Yeah, Toronto had a bit of that sort of thing too, but in a slightly different way. I think it was a reaction to the lack of all ages venues, and also just how expensive it was to book places in Toronto at the time, because otherwise you'd have to pay to play places like El Macombo, the Big Bop, and the Reverb, which existed at the time. So out of that came a few underground venues in Toronto, such as Siesta Nouveau and Soy Bomb.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good resurgence period, and to a certain degree in Toronto, it's still kind of going on.
Yeah, it seems to be like really happening in Toronto. It's funny how for the longest time Toronto, like there was no need to go to Toronto because locally things were happening, and then everyone who was involved in that grew up and moved to Toronto. So like that sort of energy is still happening. It's just everyone's older.
It's just shifted.
Yeah.
Geographically.
Yeah, and geographically speaking.
Well, from my understanding, there has kind of been a recent resurgence of creativity in Mississauga.
I would say so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and it shows like, well, one of the products of that is this interview where you seem to be feel like you. It seems like you kind of see relevance in this sort of like community, which is cool, and it's a good step to a vibrant scene. From what I've seen, like I see the beginnings of something rather than like a fully formed community.
I think Pretty Odd are kind of one of those bands that, for me, are right up in there like that. I've taken notice of those guys, for instance.
Yeah, well, they do it really seriously. There are like a lot of notable artists, and everyone's so young, which is awesome because that's the age that we started in. So I'm really curious to see how bands evolve, and like all these bands that are around now, like as much as like they're stoked, like inevitably life happens and people break up and like, but out of that comes even better projects, right? So right now, like I feel like we're at the beginnings of something, and just due to like my age, like not as involved in attending shows as I'd like to be.
I need to get more onto that.
But from what I've seen, like I just see younger versions of the people we know. Like, oh, there's young Jackie, or
Which
that
is
guy's
awesome.
that guy's moshing like Nathan.
I thought it was.
play.
I kind of felt like it went away for a bit, but it seems like it's kind of emerging again.
Yeah, it's cool. Not enough hardcore bands though. That's what I say.
Yeah, it's a bit of a. It's not as an aggressive approach, but it's.
Yeah, everyone seems very well adjusted, and I don't like that. I'm like, where's your mental illness? Like, why aren't you guys insane? Because that was us as a kid. Like, as kids, we just like wanted to destroy everything, and the more obnoxious and like insane, the bigger the better. Like, the bloodier the better. Like.
Yeah, it's just a mark of the times, I guess.
Yeah,
It's
striving for extremes, So yeah, for me to go to more shows, I think you guys need to start. I'm talking to you, everyone. Start aggressive bands, more aggressive bands. Don't do this singy, screamy bullshit. Just scream. Just go insane, go nuts. Don't even tune your instruments. Just break them. Break them for a song.
I don't endorse this message.
Yeah, that's what I want. I want power violence again. That's what I want.
I'll do all that, but really slow.
Yeah, do it in your very just bob your head real slow, and that's all I ask from you. I get it. You have a mustache now, so
Times have changed.
yeah.
Well, speaking of, from what you said about break your instruments, there was an incident that happened at a recent Lodge show, where the guitarist for Terry Green, Matt Farfel, his guitar broke in half while he was playing.
Yeah. Was the band able to continue the set?
They had to get a replacement guitar from one of the other bands.
And they didn't do it hard enough.
Yeah, that's a weak.
That's a weak
Get your bass
argument.
player to play more
Here,
notes.
let me tell you a story about when I knew local music was the shit. I was watching this band called Race Car. This is a story I told a million times. We gotta tell it fucking again.
I'm gonna have to go.
They're
text my
playing.
friend to come pick me
There were
up.
a bunch of fucking nerds playing really emo music so hard that by the third song they couldn't continue their set because all their instruments were broken. And that was an emo band. So Terry Green, get it together.
Come on, work on your shit, yo. Work on your shit.
Oh dear.
Yeah, and up your crisis management game, for crying out loud. Seen worse things happen.
You should have a pulley system that has like a new guitar on it, and it just comes down and lands in your arms. Yeah. It's 2015, guys. Get your shit together.
Oh dear. Oh dear. Okay, now, my next series of questions revolves around several incidents in the 2009-2010 period of Dance Electric. Now, van problems.
Oh, God,
Oh,
those
you bring like our lowest points in life where depression took over and it's just all sorrow.
We drove all the way to Halifax in our van twice. That's the short version.
Yeah.
On the way there and on the way back, was it?
No, it
Twice
on the way back. That's right.
We
Twice on the way
we
back.
blew a tire in New
Outside
Brunswick.
Fredericton.
Yeah, just outside of Fredericton.
Which
the
was
tow truck,
fine. Was
the tow truck that was supposed to get us broke down too.
Oh yeah. But then the guy that did pick us up was a really cool guy. We all got into his truck and like went back, right?
Yeah, he picked us up
Which is
on,
more than I
like,
can say for the second guy.
Yeah.
NJ's. Oh man, you should see NJ when he has seething rage. It's amazing.
It's coming from
the
hair trigger
the
Jamie.
second time, yeah, I know. I lose my shit, like, and I go crazy. But NJ just seethes. Oh man, it's impressive. But we were in Quebec the second time when I guess it was a tire that busted up.
Nope, it
Nope,
was
the
the
engine
engine
broke.
failure.
Oh, right, the engine.
Yeah.
So we call in the middle of nowhere, right?
We're about halfway between Quebec City and Montreal when
The second time, mind you, that we messed up, it busted down. And we called, like, whatever, some pickup guy. And the guy that showed up was a fucking charlatan, man. He was...
Okay, hang on.
In
Okay.
defense? Are you gonna defend him? Or?
I don't know, man.
Okay, so a lot can occur due to language barriers
Yeah.
and miscommunication of personal gestures and external expressions. So let's just say that there was some mixed channels in communication between
Primarily
me
between
and the
NJ
tow
and the
truck
tow truck
driver.
driver guy.
And it resulted in certain emotions.
Yeah.
Oh, it was horrible. It
certain
was a
things-
horrible situation.
Certain things being expressed, but as it turns out, he was a decent guy
Yeah.
who was just bound to certain bureaucracies with regards to how things are done in the province of Quebec.
I missed all that part. Were you sitting in the front? Okay, so he clearly... I was not privy to this.
But you're in the back seething. Like.
Yeah, I was in the back. I had inherited the seething. Well, namely also because, like, it was weird. It was like... There was, like, a moment between NJ and this guy. I was like, whoa. And it was kind of like NJ saying, you know what? No. I'm not going to do your plan. You get out of here kind of thing. Like, after he was asking anyways.
Yeah,
obviously,
considering the
like,
language barrier, he sure knew the words fuck and you.
Yeah. But then afterwards, it turned out that we kind of were like, we had no other choice. And
Yeah.
then we called other people saying, hey, this is the way this guy's acting. He said, oh, yeah, that's the deal. So then we had to go back and eat humble pie, which is always just really...
It's
Oh.
the most disgusting of pies.
Yeah,
like,
it's the worst pie you
apple's
can eat.
cool,
I would rather eat poo pie than humble
Key
pie.
lime is okay.
Oh my god. And then humble pie is right there beneath poo. But we had to go back. It was, yeah. But apparently it all worked out, so yay.
Well, it didn't really.
that was only but the tip of
Yeah.
of that
Oh yeah, that's because then we had to go
that
get...
iceberg. Yeah. So
Oh,
we,
that
ended,
was a-
we ended up getting stranded just outside of Montreal. We needed a new engine for our van. We all had commitments to get back
Yeah.
from work.
We
We
like
couldn't
left.
we couldn't fly back because you didn't have ID.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
God, it was a nightmare.
But eventually we all made it home. A lot broker, a bit disparaged, but you know it.
We all made it home, mind you, except for Theo.
Theo-
I made
Theo-
it home a little bit later than the rest of
I
us.
stayed with the van.
Like Titanic, he went down with the ship. But then he tried to bring it back up again.
I did.
For a little while.
For a little while. It lasted a year after that. They rebuilt the whole engine, and that's a pretty big job. So I was stuck in Montreal, like really bummed out in a hotel that I couldn't afford because we had to
get an engine.
get an
rebuilt.
engine, you know. And yeah, it was pretty. Looking back on it now, it's no big deal because like we
It's
paid
just
it
one
off,
of those
but,
things.
But and it's even every band has a story like this. Every band goes through some shitty times, and it's a real test of character. One that I felt led to the demise of the band. It was like a
think that
series of like incidences.
That time
happened.
actually did contribute to the death of the band.
I would say like well.
Which is unfortunate. We did it twice. We did the Halifax pop explosion before. We had done it like a few years before, or 1 year before, whatever.
2 years.
And it was like a great success overall, wouldn't you say?
It was the same trip, but this time it went bad.
It-
The first
yeah.
time was amazing. The second time was just like
a nightmare version
Yeah,
of
it
the
was just-
first time.
Yeah, we had.
And then when we got there weren't even that many people at the show.
It was a decent show. It was a decent show. Yeah, it's just that we hit a worst case scenario near the tail end of it, which really was a true test of character
Yeah.
because it was everything that could possibly going wrong in the worst way.
Yeah.
And you know, and it's always a lot harder too when there's financial impact to
Yeah.
us. So it was a loss that we chalked up, but you know, like I guess, you know, we learned from it, and knowing what we know now from it, you know, it's these are things that we, I guess, now have in the back of our minds now that we hit the road. You know, it's like
It's
this
gotta
is,
be...
yeah, and also like it, you know, I've hit the road a couple times with my current band, and that's the story that I have in the back of my mind is that should that kind of event occur again, how would I handle it differently?
Yeah, 100%. Those are all learning experiences, you know. And they become stories. Like, they're horrible at the time, but after a while they become kind of moments you look back and it's like, wow, that happened to us, and we kind of came through it.
Yeah, yeah.
My next question is about a television network in Canada. You guys have had run-ins with the Ox TV channel.
Mm-hmm.
Explain your involvement with them.
Well, I guess that's mostly me. Well, Ox TV contacted Dance Electric about doing an interview with us. It was right at the beginning where they were just developing as a channel. So they were just like really snatching up interviews from local talent. And it was this couple, Q and Derek, who were filming a show called, what was the name of the first show? Jeez, I forget. Maybe you can tell me what show we were on at first?
I can't remember the show you were on because when I tried looking at the link,
Yeah.
the page just kept being blank.
Yeah, it's been a while, but
The theme behind it was that it was kind of like a day in the life of this band. So it's where they came with us and spent the day with us where right from us setting up and well actually loading up our van right up to us playing and then us afterwards. So
yeah,
It was in Hamilton, right?
yeah, so it was a page out of our book, you know, a day in the life of Dance Electric kind of thing.
But my relationship with them continued after the fact. I guess like within this interaction, they saw something in me, and I'm really into aggressive music, really into metal, have like a long history of metal, and Derek asked me to help him with a TV show he was working on called Hard, and it was basically my gateway into mainstream metal. Like, I got to see behind the scenes and essentially do what you do, but top tier people. So like, biggest guy I interviewed was
Dave Mustaine.
no, oh man, I would love to interview that guy.
Oh, yeah.
But it was Bruce Dickinson from Iron Maiden. Also got to meet Rob Zombie, which was a real trip because I grew up like rocking around my bedroom to White Zombie. Thought he was amazing. So it was cool to see the band turn into basically like the money I made off of Vox was like, it was my job, you know, it was a freelance job for a couple of years, you know, and it created, it was a job doing what I love to do, you know, an extension of my musical curiosity. So yeah, it was a really amazing experience, and I only have fond memories for that time. Like, even the terrible experiences with bigger guys was amazing. I'm like, oh, that confirms my suspicion that there were a bunch of D-bags, you know, like, you know, just like meeting people or being like totally thrown for a loop, like talking to Cannibal Corpse and them being like really kind people, and like, this is disappointing. I thought they're gonna call me like an asshole or like sacrifice a child
Spit
in
my
front of me or
face,
something. Yeah, something like that. But they offered me a bottle of water, and it was like interviewing my dad, man. It was really sweet.
Cool. Very cool. Actually, watching Hard was one of the watching Hard was the first time I heard about the band Gallows in Britain, who also has a member of Alexis on Fire as their singer, if I'm correct.
Yeah. That was one of my favorite interviews we did with Frank, the original singer, because that guy was like punk as fuck, and he was just like trashing the label, and then the label guy was just like on the side, and he just like went off. I was like, this is incredible, like, I'm not cutting anything, this is awesome. Yeah, he was a guy that I saw myself in. Like, he had like a very similar musical philosophy, which is maybe why he's not in the band anymore.
Very cool. Now, Theo, I heard tell that you kept a journal of every gig you did with Dance Electric. Dance Electric did.
I kept it's more of like a document of every show I played. It's basically like just a list of everything I played, but it's not exclusive to Dance Electric. It has everything from Strawman Fallacy to like Horse Lover, the first band I was in, like just counting shows. It's more of like a personal tally of like how many shows you've played, where you've played, and so on. I'm sure there are like journal entries like in my old like live journal, but I erased all that shit because I read back on it. I'm like, I was a fucking idiot. Yeah. So.
No, I remember live journal.
Yeah. So
we were all idiots on live journal.
Yeah. So like, I'm sure like there were like some really stupid stories about people we ran into that we thought were dopes, because we ran into a bunch of those where, I don't know, like, you're in a band and you're just you make fun of everyone, right? So that was, it's not like it's important music history or anything, but I was pretty meticulous with documenting that, just because it was an extension of who I was, and I felt it was important, something nice to look back at, and I don't think I've updated that in a little while, because I haven't been very active.
Now, Theo, with documentation, you are kind of a documentarian of local music, particularly on the Mississauga music scene Facebook group. You've posted photos of old pre-2005 lodge shows.
Yes.
Explain this. Explain why you document.
Well, I can tell you about the time, like when I was doing that stuff. I saw this stuff as like, okay, so in regards to documenting the scene, I remember at the time, like, I was very passionate about the the local music scene because I thought it was artistically significant. I always held the perspective that like the stuff we were doing was really important. I thought punk rock and hardcore was like really high art, and so I thought it was really important to document. So I would just collect. I would buy records a lot. Like even if the band would only play one show, I'd want a little library of like everything that was happening here. Just mostly it was because like I felt at home in this scene, and it gave me a sense of self-worth coming from a history of not feeling like I belong, like intense alienation, and then coming of age within music, you know, was really important to me. So maybe that had a part of me wanting to document everything that was happening at the time.
Cool.
And some of the music like that came from that, I still listen to. Like, you know, I still love it, and it is important to me. And the reason I like to share, like pictures of like the olden days with like younger people, is because I want them to have that aha moment too. Because, you know, going back to that whole race car story, that was the day where I was like, fuck everything I'm listening to. Like, I want to be a part of this scene, and a lot of, pretty much all the best things in my life happened because of that moment. And I want other people to just like see that it can be done. Like, it's not this unattainable thing. You know, like, I was really inspired by my peers, and it led me down like I believe a really fulfilling road, and that's why I did it at the time.
Well, you and I have something in common then.
Yes.
Your organisms. With a complex cell structure.
Well,
Same amount of I'm gonna stop trying to say that word. Chromosomes, yeah.
Mitochondrion.
Yeah.
I meant in the documentation part, but yeah, yeah. Okay, my next question is for Jamie. Jamie, you once said that art is a loaded term. You thought that art was a loaded term.
Yeah, I think I've thought about that since I probably said that, and I realize again, it comes back down to this kind of my upbringing of, like Theo's touched on, never really feeling comfortable with the idea that you're doing like praise or like I'm doing something special. Like myself, I've always felt, even now I don't think of myself as a musician. When I happen to be playing something and someone's like, wow, you're really good at that, it kind of still shocks me and I feel strange about it. So, I mean, at that time when we did that interview, me talking about what I was doing as like art felt strange to me. It just felt like I was kind of blowing smoke up my own ass. But obviously now when I look back and in retrospect and I think about Dance Electric and what we achieved and what we did and in the context of how we did it and what was going on at the time, I realized that, you know, what I said might have been a bit hasty. Like looking back, I realized that it was art and I feel really proud of what we did. And I feel like looking back, that's kind of, that had more merit than anything else I've done. Aside from, you know, meeting my girlfriend and stuff. Like I worked these odd jobs and stuff and I've worked at, you know, random places and I've done all these different things. But I feel like we created something that was special and people identified with it and they were a part of a community and we were part of a community and I'll always look back on that as a learning experience and as my education in music. So I would you know, I wouldn't say the same thing had you asked me if it was art. I would say 100% it's art and I felt really very proud of it and so, you know, age kind of changes your perspective on things.
Yeah, it's funny how like we always have that fear of like coming off as pretentious.
Pretentious, yeah.
You know, and maybe that's where like a lot of our humor comes from. Like it's all very self-deprecating.
Yeah, exactly. You have to
live with
deal
our
with it.
insecurities.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny the way that, you know, time can change things, but I guess, you know, a few years have passed since then, so now I can look at it a bit more from a different perspective as well. I'm not in it, so I'm not creating it at the time, so I can look back and think, you know, we created something and it meant something to a lot of people, so I would be less uncomfortable with describing it as art these days.
Cool. My next question is the Vulcan Dub Squad. Jamie, you once said that one of your earliest musical memory, a key moment musically for you was staring out the window in 11th grade English class, imagining playing in the Vulcan Dub Squad. Explain the Vulcan Dub Squad for people who might not know who they are, and explain what it is about them that you like.
Okay. So the Vulcan Dub Squad were the first band that I kind of were drawn to see by my friends. They said, you gotta come see this band, they're called the Vulcan Dub Squad, they're amazing. Again, a local band. Back then, I thought local band, how good can they be? This was like, I guess 2 years before I joined, maybe a year before I joined before I joined Dance Electric. And so this amazing band came on, like all these different bands played, and then people started clapping and chanting this name, the Vulcan Dub Squad, and then it was really a surreal moment, like, well, something's happening now. Like, I felt that, like, wow, something's happening, and then it was in the Masonic Lodge, and then, like the Red Sea, like, the whole crowd parted, and through this gap, everyone kind of stopped clapping, and through this gap came these masked people who took the stage, and then kind of, like, stood still there for a second, and the guy came up to the front, and he just, like, screamed something, I can't remember what it was, but he said, "Hey, Ma!" And everyone just burst into music, and they started moving, and I was immediately just blown away, like, everyone was digging it, the band was incredible, the singer was incredible, I didn't see any of their faces because they were wearing these masks to conceal their faces, but it just had an immediate impact, like moment, like, I need to change whatever it is I'm doing now, and that's what I want to do. So yes, you mentioned the moment in my high school, immediately thereafter I was in my school just looking at the window thinking, like, oh my god, like, that's what I need to do, like, I need to give up every single thing that I'm doing now and just do that. And then shortly thereafter I took up the bass. I convinced my mom to buy me a bass, and I've given up a lot of things in my life, so they're like, alright, whatever, here's another thing that you're going to give up. But I did, and then, like, thank God, I started practicing, and these guys, you know, asked me to join. Fast forward, like, I don't know, a year, and I had made, you know, some headway with this band, and we played a lot of shows, and sure enough, the band that made me want to play in the first place came to one of our shows and essentially scouted me. Like, they all came, they were having, it was known that they were looking for a bass player, but I thought that, okay, I'm not even going to apply, there's no chance I'm going to get it. But these guys basically came and headhunted me, and after our show, the guy came up and he's like, you should come try for our band, and I did, and I ended up joining this band. So the band that essentially made me play bass in the first place, that a lot of people like were around since 1994, they asked me to be in their band. So, like, it was very humbling and made me realize that, I know it's going to sound cheesy, but, like, really there's a lot of stuff, maybe not everything, but a lot of stuff is possible, you know, if you just make the right choice at the right time. And it would not have happened for these guys, and funny enough, even though they were, like, my favorite band in the world and I was so happy to join them, they're still not, you know, any greater than Dance Electric. Like, Dance Electric became an amazing thing for me too, and was my musical education, and changed my mind about a lot of types of music, and I'm indebted forever to that band, you know, both those bands.
You love U2, Jamie?
I used to love U2, yeah, so that was, that was once a thing, yeah. So that's the Vulcan Dub Squad, yeah, they were a great band, they ended up breaking up, I left the band, and then it kind of, I guess they never officially broke up, but it kind of fell apart after I left, and it was great while it lasted, 2 bands, it was really fun. But things happen, you know. That was the story of the Vulcan Dub Squad. They were a lot older than me. All of them were like 10 years older than I was.
Kind of like the Red Hot Chili Peppers and John Frusciante.
Yes, that kind of shtick. In the same sense that I guess I was headhunted too. It wouldn't have happened without this band. You know, it wouldn't have happened.
And they found you missing your teeth, hooked on heroin.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Fighting invisible
Speaking
ghosts.
up against like 250 people that were speaking in my mind.
Exactly.
The exact same story, essentially, is what happened.
Okay, now, Jamie, this next question is about your onstage antics. You tend to have some very interesting dance moves while you're playing the bass. Particularly, one such incident I remember is the Beating Hearts Festival. You were dressed with a headband, a bandana, I believe, wrapped around your forehead, and you were just... I think you did the duck walk at one point. You were just moving around, convulsing with your bass. It was very awe-inspiring.
Yeah, I'm a strange person, is the main part of that. I like to move around a lot on stage. I like to feel the music. I actually find it strangely easier to play the bass if I'm moving a lot, because if I'm not, like, I kind of like sometimes will lose track of time because it just seems so stale, whereas if I can really get into it, I feel it a lot more. So yeah, I do a lot of crazy stuff. And you know, some of it's probably affected just to kind of just enhance the show, because it's nice to really put on a show, right? I don't want to just kind of get up there and stand there. And I learned a lot from these guys too. MJ goes fucking nuts on stage too, and I saw him, so a lot of that was from him, a lot of that was from, you know, people I used to watch, like this guy Phil Lynott, who's like my idol, this band Thin Lizzy. He played the bass, he sang, and he just had this crazy stage persona. He used to move around a lot, so he used to get like a really low stage stance, like he used to get real low to the ground, so I used to do that a lot too. Yeah, it's just part of the whole thing. I love it. Like, you gotta engage people, and that's part of engaging people as well, right? It's just like going crazy. They'll get more into it, and that's the goal, right? You want to engage people as much as possible. So yeah, I'm a bit of a crazy bastard on stage. I don't like to stand still. I just don't like it. It doesn't feel natural to me, so I can't do it actually. In fact, once I start playing enough, if we get into the set, I will guarantee to be jumping around like a maniac.
So you're very much like Flea.
Well, Flea was actually probably my biggest influence. When I first started playing bass, Flea was like my hero, right? So, and you know, obviously you can hear it in my bass playing, he's influenced me a lot. So that was kind of what started me off. And Jaco Pastorius and all these like really bass guys. Like I think I took a route to bass that a lot of people didn't. I took bass because I always wanted to play bass. Bass was the one I wanted to play, not a guitar. I just loved the feeling of bass, the deepness of the bass. Like I felt like you just felt it, you know?
Yeah.
I always loved it. I always dug it. I always identified with it. And then Flea is just great, right? Because he's the bass player, but he's like kind of the guy you're watching, right? And he's adding something very real to the band. And
Don't forget that you also have in common with him your Australian roots.
exactly. I was born in Australia.
A nickname.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. And
Dougie.
and a short stature.
Yes. So essentially, I'm the same guy as Flea. Not quite as talented, but you know,
None of those were true.
Yeah, none of those were true. Those were all lies. I was actually born in Myanmar, not longer known as Myanmar.
Are you asking him?
Yeah, I can't
About
remember. I've
your
erased all my
original
memory of
girlfriend.
my upbringing in
Right.
Myanmar. It was a very uncomfortable thing. I'm sorry about all those lies.
Well, similar. Scouted like John Frusciante and you play like Flea.
An Australian like
Yes,
Flea.
exactly. Yeah. I was also in Back to the Future.
You were.
I challenged Marty McFly to a race, called him a chicken.
No, you fired him.
Yeah, but then afterwards,
That was later on.
No,
Yeah, you know, you did. You did. Later on.
Did? Oh.
Yeah, man.
I thought.
You
that
need to
was-
watch some Back to the
Yeah,
Future,
see?
sir.
Yeah, he was in Back to the Future.
He fired him and also challenged me to a race.
Yeah.
Wait, he
Forgot about the
fired him?
Yeah.
Yeah, he fired him in Back to the
Via
Future too.
fax.
Yeah.
He basically gets him to like do something that he probably shouldn't do.
No, he didn't fire him. It was the Japanese guy.
Oh yeah, he
that
got him
unusual.
fired.
He got him fired.
Yeah.
But Flea was the catalyst to like all his misfortune
Yeah, he
because
was an asshole to Marty McFly.
when he, you know how it was in the third one. All right, I really love movies, by the way.
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Third one. Is,
That's where he challenged with the
No,
race.
yeah,
right?
No
but-
juice.
Oh, so there's a story in the second one about how Marty became down and out. It was he got into an accident while drag racing Flea, right?
God,
So in the
yeah.
third one, to show the audience that
Right.
that fate is not set,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
decided not to
Not to
race
race
him,
him.
and then everything changed. He didn't get fired because his girlfriend opened up that letter and said, "You're fired," and then it just disappeared.
Best handling of like time travel, you know.
Some would beg to
I
differ.
don't know.
Well,
You're more of a Time Cop fan?
Time cop.
Well, I consider myself an amateur. I consider myself probably an amateur temporal physicist. Logically speaking, that it still causes a paradox because
Well,
how would you
time
get
travel
the
shouldn't
letter?
exist in the first place because by the time everything happens in the movie shouldn't have happened.
Well, no, but unless it creates a parallel universe and then collapsing timelines.
Which opens a whole new world of questions. If it creates a parallel universe, then like I don't know what to think anymore. 'Cause there's like a billion of us. I don't know. That just blows my mind apart too much. There's only one of us, okay?
Well, no, there'd be an infinite number
Okay.
of us.
Okay.
But no, but then if you
Okay.
traveled into the
Why?
past, would there be more? Would there be two of you? That's scary. That's crazy.
Well, no, because if you made a parallel universe, there's two different versions of you. There's one version of you that traveled to the past, and another version of you that's from the past. So,
I just went cross-eyed.
because of this, there are two yous, but then there are two different people because the you are now going back is the you who's different from the you were. Oh man, I'm getting this is I'm going. This is becoming a tangent.
Yeah. Time travel's awesome.
New topic. Awesome. Okay, now influences. The biggest influences of, well, for you guys that inspired you to play music, that helped shape the sounds that you want to craft and did eventually craft and are crafting currently.
I think a lot of it stems from, I know me and NJ have kind of like a similar story when it comes to wanting to start to play music. I saw this movie called Live Tonight Sold Out, Nirvana, and just watching Kurt Cobain going insane and the smashing guitars, I was like, I want to be a musician and smash things. Don't really, of course. It was funny. I wasn't really influenced by music, more so the antics.
Yeah.
But NJ, he kind of, sorry to put words in your mouth, but like he shared with me that he saw the same video and it inspired him to take up the drums.
Yeah, I think, I don't know, like we were part of that MTV generation, so unlike Jamie, who had much more realistic and tangible heroes to look up to, you know, that makes it sound old, but we came from an era where, you know, like our heroes were like these sensational, like, you know, signed artists that were making music videos, and you know, but that's at the time, like that's the gateway. That was what introduced us to I guess that aggressive type of music. So I don't know, like it's, in some ways I'm envious of Jamie in that you know, he's able to actually have these tangible, inspiring artists like that help fuel and motivate him, whereas it was always kind of, at least for me, like something that was far away, and I don't know, it wasn't somebody who you could just walk up to after a show. You know, it was somebody who you watched on TV. But nonetheless, though, something has to be said about the passion that those artists exuded, because even though they were distant and it wasn't personal, it did become personal to me because they were able to show that passion. It transcended television. You know, it spoke to me as a 13, 12-year-old, made me pick up a guitar, you know, and yeah.
But also, like, influences evolve, and, you know, like, as we grew older, the influences became closer and closer to us. So I have met most of my influences, and we have played shows with a lot of our influences. It became this viable thing, like, we can talk to the people who create the music that we love, and it kind of demystifies everything, which was a big motivation in the way we composed ourselves, right? Like, there was just like, everyone can do this, we love doing this, and like, we're just influenced by people who have the same ambition and same sort of philosophy, you know?
Cool.
Yeah, and then I once watched this movie called Back to the Future, and Marty McFly plays Johnny B. Good. And that was the moment for me. That's my influence. Johnny B. Good.
Nice
Yeah,
influence.
his hands disappearing. Earth Angel as well.
Who?
Earth Angel.
Oh.
It's another song. It's another song, Back to the Future.
Alright, my next question is about your sound. Describe your sound.
A lot of flattened seconds and fifths for the musically inclined. And in fact, that's kind of our sound.
Yeah,
Lots of yes.
Played over 4/4.
Yeah.
The Locrian scale.
Good old Poppy. Yeah, actually, good job. Good job. Yeah, it was cool actually. It was like these guys were both very post-hardcore. I'm not. Tori's not really post-hardcore-y.
No, I think the general approach with the band was that we kept it simple.
Yeah.
And it was really visceral. It
Yeah.
was whatever worked at that moment we stuck with. If it didn't, we passed.
It had clear post-hardcore influences, but it was also accessible. It was lacking really in breakdowns.
Yes.
Was always usually 4/4 and had a pop sensibility to it as well.
Yeah.
I think.
I'd filter through a bunch
Of heaviness and flattened seconds and fifths, which gives it that really nice heavy sound.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm telling you that. I still use those. That's still influenced me. You want to make music that doesn't sound like everything else? Have weird flattened seconds and fifths.
Well, I can't really list off the top of my head that many rock bands who use the Locrian scale that much.
Tool would be like the most known band that does it, but like, yeah, you're right. It's not. In fact, those notes were banned in the medieval era because
Yeah,
they're
I
considered
know.
the devil's notes.
The
We
tritone.
would have been heretics.
We would have been burned at the stake
Yeah.
in the medieval era, which is very fitting.
Yeah, considering
our shtick
yeah.
on the second album.
Well, I will say this, that is my favorite scale, actually. My favorite mode, actually.
That's awesome. You seem to know a lot more about music than I do. I only learned that because we were playing it a lot. So I was like, there's something weird about this.
Yeah, NJ was the only one who was traditionally trained.
Right. Yeah, when I joined the band, I was not. I've never been actually traditionally trained. I just started teaching myself stuff.
So I guess what we learned was from NJ. I didn't learn
Yeah.
too much because I didn't have to.
Yeah, but even still, I don't know. I was.
You weren't like you weren't like I'm gonna play the
I was-
Locrian scale right now.
No, we weren't.
No.
We didn't have a really.
It came
theory
naturally.
Heavy.
No.
Or like theory heavy approach. Like
But-
it said, if it captured the moment, we stuck with it.
At the time, I did not know we were using flattened seconds and fifths. I've only since actually learning something and going, hey, and I've listened to my music. That's a lot of flattened seconds and fifths there. So at the time, it was not like that was a conscious thing. It just came naturally. That was our sound.
Yeah.
It emerged as our sound.
Heresy.
Yeah, we were the sound of heresy. Beautiful pop sensibility heresy. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Very unique. Very unique. Very unique.
Thank you. I'm glad we achieved that.
Alright, now, MySpace.
Your
What's
space.
specifically about MySpace?
You guys had a very interesting history on MySpace, but most of which is wiped from the internet.
Yeah, MySpace is gone, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
On the form that we knew. It's been revamped a few times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess there's not too much to be said about that, except we were a featured artist on MySpace for a bit. It was like 2 weeks or something like that. And it was only on the Canadian MySpace, so it wasn't like
Only.
international.
It's like Canadian Netflix. You
Yeah.
can watch the sequels to stuff, but not the originals.
And I don't know. That was the medium that was relevant at the time. You know, that was
Yeah.
we just existed before Facebook, before Bandcamp. So yeah, it was that
Main source of.
our
Expanding,
online
right?
showcase.
But prior to that, like, we used to use mp3.com, you know, like, and
Yeah,
that was
yeah.
another sort of world you had to navigate that wasn't.
The
Too
whole
great.
thing is different now.
Yeah, everything changes, and we got pretty savvy at evolving with technology, right? Like, whatever was new, we utilized, and sometimes it led to dead ends. Like, I don't know, there were so many websites that we signed up for,
Yeah.
and then they died soon after, you know. But for a little while, it seemed like people were gonna listen to music on that site, and then they didn't. So I guess MySpace, yeah, we just got a lot of shows through MySpace. It was just a huge network, and it wasn't what it became. You know, like it became pretty hard to navigate because there's so much garbage on it. And
It just died too.
yeah.
Facebook came along.
Cool. NJ.
Oh.
Villains.
Yes.
Explain villains.
Well, it was a side project consisting of myself, Colin, formerly from the Love and Terror Cult, who's also now in Hammerhands, and Ryan Naray, formerly of the Love and Terror Cult, and is now in Animal Faces. That was purely motivated by the fact that we were three guys who played guitar and wanted to be in a band where nobody played guitar. So the instrumentation in that band is keyboards, bass, and drums. And we also wanted to really push how far we can take this ironic sense of misogyny. Not that we actually are, but it's more of a, I guess, just a hilarious commentary on I guess like that period of time where men just were super uber dominant and like it comedically so, you know, and it was a fun little project. And in terms of how the sound developed, that was the other thing too, is we wanted to depart a bit from that guitar driven metal sounding I guess presentation that we would normally have with the other bands that we were in. So that's why we kind of dabbled a bit in that electro pop kind of sound, but still, you know, filtered through our hardcore and metal influences. So it was a short-lived project, but it was a side project, so it wasn't a full commitment, but it was fun while it lasted.
Cool. Very, very cool. Theo.
Mm-hmm.
Cute boys with cats.
Yes.
No.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was featured on this website called Cute Boys with Cats when I was cuter. And, yeah, my girlfriend at the time, she bought me a cat. This guy over here, Darby Crash, who is the most punk rock cat that I know. And she took a picture of me sleeping in my bed at the time. And I was sleeping in a pink comforter, which I am inclined to do. And yeah, she, without telling me, posted it on that website. And well, one day I was a cute boy with a cat.
Lo and behold, you're a trillionaire.
I know. And I've acquired this couch from the money I made off of Cute Boys with Cats. The couch came with the apartment.
Now, Colin Young, NJ. I know that Colin is currently your band member.
Correct.
Your bandmate. Sorry. And I also know that he had involvement in the recording of some of your music. Tell me about Colin Young.
Oh man, do you have another tape?
Yeah. He's a complicated man. I guess from a production perspective, we were really lucky to have worked with him on a few projects. In the early days of Strawman, he recorded us, as well as with Dance Electric, Villains, and with the current band in Hammerhands too. And I guess he's just one of those guys who's just innately talented and really understands music. He's also classically trained. He's just got just enough of that craziness, that quirkiness, you know, that really sets him apart from the rest. So yeah, it's also, I guess, really easy working with him too, because he was a friend first before, I guess, before a musical colleague. So I think in any of the projects where he's produced or had any involvement with, it's always been easygoing and really natural. Yeah.
Cool. I also know that he produces a lot of music in Mississauga, in Peel, in just the in the GTA. I know he's involved with a lot of music actually.
Yes, he's built quite the rapport as an engineer and as a producer. So yeah, he's got that knack, and he's got a terrific ear. So you know, luckily, because of his reputation, it's starting to spread a little bit. And it started off amongst friends, but it's starting to blossom outside of that. So yeah, and outside of being in the band, that's pretty much his other passion. So yeah, hopefully it continues to evolve. I know that I'm gonna keep being lucky in the sense that he's in my current band, so we'll always have his input and know-how for any of our projects.
Hmm. Cool. Weird shows. Like, what are the weirdest shows you guys played as Dance Electric?
Well, the wrestling show was mentioned earlier. I guess the other weird one was the Real Asian Film Festival.
Yeah, we played an Asian film festival. That was weird. I guess what was mostly weird about it, well, like, the show was pretty much a flop. There weren't that many people there, but
I guess it was the pomp and circumstance around the
yeah,
whole
it's
thing.
serious. Like, they treated us like stars.
Yeah, it was that, you know, what you would know and see as being that mainstream, like, rock star treatment.
Yeah, so the opening night of the film festival, they were screening this movie called, what was it? Finishing the Game.
Yeah.
And the movie was about, it was like kind of like a mockumentary on finishing the last Bruce Lee movie right after he died. So they're trying to find actors to replace him. It's fucking grand opening film or premiere film, and they decided to put all the musical acts in like these Porsche Jeeps, like these really nice Porsche Jeeps, and drive them to the
Blur Cinema red carpet event.
yeah. So like we're like being driven there like the whole time. We were with like this hip hop act, and they took it real seriously. They got out of the van. They were all real like, hey, yeah, we're all cool. And then we got out of the van like laughing because people are like taking pictures of us, and like I'm sure like someone who worked for them was like, oh, it's Dance Electric. I'm like, you don't know us. So there's no way.
Well, like, I think the reaction was, you know, like, for the cameras to go off as soon as the door opens in the car. So like I remember getting out, and there's just like a sea of flashes, and then they just immediately stopped, and
Yeah.
there was like these blank looks on
Like-
photographers' faces.
Yeah.
Like, who did we just shoot?
Yeah. And the red carpet was very, very short. So it's just like the sidewalk, right? So that walk was a pretty short-lived walk, which kind of sums up our careers. And we left the movie halfway through because we're like, let's go see the Locust down the street. Be fucking rude as fuck. All this money was spent on us, and we're like, let's go to a hardcore show. Right on. Oh, but there are more shows. There's a ton. Like
There's a ton of weird ones.
it's just the nature of survival. You have to play everything, and we played this really odd show. It was like a seminar for kids about abusive relationships and how to avoid them, and we were like the afternoon entertainment during lunch.
Wait, what?
Yeah, so like they're serving like sandwiches and shit to like these at-risk youth, and we're like screaming our guts out, and it got real awkward because they got cops to like talk to the kids, and these kids fucking hated the cops, and they're all like, every question was just an accusation, like, I was in this situation and the cops did nothing. And then we saw this cop who's like pissing himself, and it's not like we're like pro or anti-cop, but we just felt real bad about him.
It's just awkward exchange.
Yeah, it was so weird. Like, and we just like the whole time we were just like shocked. Like, these kids are tearing this cop apart, and we're here, and we're playing music for some reason. That was really odd.
We played a retirement home.
Yeah, we did. And we had to turn it down.
You played a retirement home?
We played it.
Wait, what?
Yeah, we played it, but like they said, you guys gotta stop.
Oh,
'cause,
turn
like,
it down. I thought you
yeah.
meant like it was turned down. Yes,
Yeah.
It was too loud.
Sorry. Yeah, it was too loud. You know that old adage: it's too loud, you're too old. Well, these retirees,
they were
too old.
But
Yeah.
how did you get the gig in the first place?
Didn't matter. We said yes. There was
We
a
said yes.
gig.
There was a gig. We were there. We played. Old people hated us. And yeah, it was like a thank you sort of concert for volunteers at the old age home. So it wasn't for the old people; it was for the young people helping them out. We had a connection to that somehow. Oh, it was through Chris's mom.
Through friends.
Yeah, through friends. So that was weird. NJ wasn't involved in this, but this one sticks out in my mind. I was in a band called I Spoke back in the day, and we played Ottawa and Club Saw, and Saw was an art museum, and the theme of the art exhibit was shit. So all these art
actual shit.
feces, poop, dung, caca, turds.
Oh, God.
So there was art featuring shit. Sometimes it was actual shit, but bronze. And you play a show surrounded by shit. And this also sums up our careers. Yeah, so that was a weird one.
Yeah.
And we got kicked out of a birthday party once.
Oh, we did.
Yeah, we played this girl's birthday party, and apparently we were too old.
This is with Strawman.
This was a strawman fallacy, and her parents came up to us and asked us our age, and we're like, and we weren't that much older. It was 5 years, whatever. And they're like, you guys gotta go. And I was like, we just played your daughter's birthday party for free, and you're kicking us out. And
I think we got to have pizza.
we got to eat. We ate a lot of their food as vengeance, which was the sweetest revenge because there was cake, so it was literally the sweetest revenge. But other than that, it was an absurd time. And I later found out that they thought we were peddling drugs, which was super odd.
Wait, what?
Since I was straight edge. NJ, not really a drug. None of us were drug guys. We were just high on rage, basically.
Why would they think you're peddling drugs?
I don't know. Well, just look at us. Like, you get it, right? Right.
Yeah. So those amongst a few.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's always something.
Yeah, so there's always something. That's what makes life amazing.
Those are some weird shows.
Yeah.
Those are some weird shows. I tip my hat off to you, gentlemen.
Thanks. We did it.
Right, tell me about Indie City Friday.
Oh, that's just like the Beating Heart Festival, right? It was just
That's what it ended up becoming afterwards. Yeah.
It was just another incarnation to the Beating Heart Festival, which was initially started by Ryan Tobin, who would book Dance Electric quite a bit at the
Duke of Marlborough.
Yeah, which was Marcello's before Marcello's. So yeah, it was just like a way that you can basically put on free shows for like a bunch of kids, and you're just involved in it. They were one of the bands that were asked because of that relationship with Ryan Tobin, and it was a really good time. It was really fun. Who do we play with? We played with like a lot. We played that thing every incarnation pretty much. Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It was a good summer showcase that was, for I guess one of the first times, we didn't have, the promoters weren't limited to church basements or home basements. It was unique in the sense that, well, the incarnations of it, of course, in that it was out in the open, and it was out in what is now Mississauga Celebration Square, So it was a good opportunity for us to play in a bigger kind of stage, as well as other artists too. So.
I remember the thing I remember the most was the tray of crackers and meat that was available to us.
There was a tray of crackers and meat.
I know, it blew my mind.
We were living large.
There was a green room, which was basically just an empty room in the library, and we got a bottle of water, and there was some cold cuts.
So there's a platter.
There's a platter. I mean, that's when we became a real band.
And we were, yeah. In fact, didn't we say, now we're a real band?
Yes, which is pretty much our mantra for any milestone we reach. Tray platters, or platters of meat. Right on.
I should have brought platters of meat with me.
Now we're a real band.
Yes.
We would be.
We would be a real band.
But now we're just...
My next question is Rock the Coliseum.
Which is kind of an offshoot of the Beating Heart Festival. It was just run by another person, Bushra. She spearheaded that. She lives in California now, but...
Yeah, it was recently taken over again by Ryan Tobin. But yeah, you know, again, a good summer showcase that at one point overlapped with Indie Fridays, but now it's kind of taken on a life of its own. Again, a really good summer showcase in Mississauga. So we've been glad to have been part of that a couple times. Yeah, and in my case, in 2 different bands. So yeah, it's a good time. Always look forward to it in the summer.
Very cool. Now, I have to ask this. What was the very first show you guys played as Dance Electric? Because the earliest show that I have seen a record of was in 2006, a CD release party. What was the first show that you guys played?
It's Orangeville, and we opened for Man with Target.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was Orangeville. Like used to be part of like that community, going back to like that burst of creativity. Like Burlington had its own little scene, Brampton had its own little scene. Caledon had its own.
Orangeville, Caledon.
So yeah, we played all over the place, and bands in the area like could play to different kids all the time without driving too far. So yeah, it's just we had a connection to Orangeville for some reason, and we played a couple shows there, and that was our first show. Like, and it was our first show, and really like we didn't have too many people who knew us there, which was really cool. Like the Love and Terror Cult guys were there, and that was it. That was our only friends there.
It was a bit of a ways to go, but you know, like at the same time, I guess it was a good way to start things off. Just a quiet little pilot run of how things were, like on an actual, like non-practicing environment.
Yeah, and it's funny how like from that one show we still see those dudes from time to time. Like Graham.
Yeah.
Like I see Graham all the time. So it's pretty sweet to see stem from that. But yeah, it was not an explosion. It's just a really quiet show, you know, in a community center, like always.
Now, for a history perspective, I heard once that there was a ska, like there's a large amount of ska bands in Mississauga during say around 2004, 2006. Is this true?
I would say it was even more prominent before that. There was like the Knockouts and I guess Il Scarlet. I don't know, Il Scarlet, they've been around forever, man. Like I remember playing with them at the lodge like when I was in high school. So yeah, ska was like always around. I guess not so much anymore, which I personally feel is a good thing because I was not really. Ska's too happy for me. I need more brooding shit. But yeah, like there are a lot of bands like Bikes. Bikes was a really big one in high school. It's mostly high school kids with fucking horn sections.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like that was it. That whole like Tooth and Nail influence. A lot of churches had like kids in ska bands and stuff like that. So yeah, it did exist.
Yeah, just our interests lay beyond.
Yeah, we were not really like I went to a bunch of ska shows. Just was did not pique my interest. Like, there were Two Tones Malone I was really into, and they were just a bunch of kids, and like they would do a cover of Ghostbusters, and I thought that was awesome. But yeah, I don't know, like every scene, like you get emulation of whatever's popular at the time, right? Whatever your entry into music is usually the type of music you play. So you get like a bunch of kids playing alternative, you get a lot of kids playing punk rock, you get a lot of kids like who are into ska, they start ska bands. So when you have like that many kids in a city, then you're gonna get a whole bunch of different sounds happening all at once.
And now, for my final question, I have to ask. Now, as people who have been involved with the scene since the early 2000s, I have to ask you, as the scene has evolved over the years, for your eyes and your perspective, how would you say that is currently compared to yesteryear, and where do you think it'll go in say the next 5 years? What do you think the scene will look like in say another 10 years from how it looks now and even 10, 12 years before?
Well, I think we kind of touched on it earlier, but you know, the one thing that seems to be consistent is that there's this ebb and flow of activity. It seems like there's certain periods of time where there's going to be a peak and then a lull, but you know, out of that lull you get a new resurgence. So I think that right now we're in that period, so hopefully that trend continues, especially with the new talent that we're seeing out there. So
Yeah, there's always going to be a need to express yourself, and music is a good way to do so, especially when you're a kid, and it allows you an opportunity to be social and also be personal all at the same time, you know, like, so yeah, as long as there's frustrated youth, there's always opportunity for there to be really good music, and I think kids are going to be a lot more musically proficient earlier, because I just noticed that, like, not that when we were growing up we were bad musicians, like we're surrounded by a lot of talented people, but we're now in an age where you don't have to pay for guitar lessons. You can just scope it out on the internet, or you can learn production really easily, and those things weren't as available to us at that age as they are now. So you had like superhuman kids who know Pro Tools and they never went to school for it, right? And they know guitar, and they come with like fully formed songs, and they just recorded it in their parents' house, and it sounds way better than anything we did when we were younger, and we had to pay for that stuff, you know? So I think musicianship is going to just get better and better, and with that being said, more hardcore bands. It's the scene right now, for me, it's too calm. Everyone seems very, very healthy. All the music is very beautiful. I don't want that. Like, high school should be a terrible time, and if you're having a good time in high school, don't start a band. If you're having a good time, don't play music.
Now, as Dance Electric, do you have any final words about your time as a band? The shows you played, the mishaps, the highs, the lows. Looking back on your time as a band, what are your, say, final thoughts on that?
I don't know. Like, I think that if I don't know. It happened. It's been a while now since the band's broken up. It's really settled, at least for me, in terms of any messages or any emotions that had to be conveyed with it. I don't know. Like, it is what it is, what it was. We've learned from our experiences from it, and yeah, and I've moved on, but that's not to say that that I didn't take anything away from that experience. It's something I always have, but yeah, it's just been, I don't know, I don't have that same attachment or sentiment to it as I did, say, maybe 3 years ago, like right when it happened.
Yeah, it's a hard question to ask because we are so far removed from it, and I think unanimously, like, I can speak for the other guys, like, we all look at it as a really good thing that happened, a really positive and unexpected thing that happened. But just growing up and growing away from it, like, when I look back at Dance Electric, I see it as kind of like a journal. Like, I was just looking through everything I did musically the last 10 years and just reading through my lyrics, like, I can pinpoint events that happened in my life through, like, every song, every record, everything. So I think that's the best thing about just, like, you and me, like, our history, is that we have these records, these mementos of instances that were at least significant to us then, right? It's cool to see, to be able to look at your art and be like, this was my perspective then, and this is how I felt about it then, and be able to relate to it in that way, being like, okay, I've evolved since then. That's not a super interesting answer, but it's just, it's the truth.
It's hard to place sentiment.
Yeah.
It was right now in this linear timeline, it was a point that occurred here, and yes, I felt certain things at this point, but how I feel about it now, I don't know. It's, like I said, it's a lot's, at least personally for me, a lot's happened, and it's not like the band terminated where there wasn't a lot of closure in it for me. There's been more than enough. We've had 2 reunion shows.
Yeah, seriously.
So
and now we have an interview, and, like, just fucking let it die, you know? Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, thank you guys for being on my show.
No problem.
Keep it loud.